Now, friends, I know recent years have been difficult for Liberals, but there are certain events that can galvanise a party. Events that are a rallying call. Events that stir a nation. And Labor's disastrous budget is such an event. Let's be clear. Anthony Albanese has started a war on aspiration. A war on the very essence of being Australian. A war on the soul of our nation. Friends, we're going to fight like hell and win this war. We're going to fight like hell and defeat this rotten Labor government. And we're going to fight like hell to protect our way of life and restore Australians' standard of living. This budget has reminded Australians that the Prime Minister's word is never his bond. He promised Australians they would be better off under his leadership. That was a lie. Under Labor, Australia has experienced the worst collapse in living standards in the developed world. Anthony Albanese promised Australians that their power bills would go down by $275 a year. Another lie. Under Labor, power prices have soared by nearly 40%. Anthony Albanese promised Australians they would have cheaper mortgages. Another lie. Under Labor, Australians with a typical mortgage are now paying almost $30,000 a year more in interest out of after-tax pay. Now, Anthony Albanese promised that there would also be no changes to negative gearing and no changes to capital gains tax. He ruled out changes, in his own words, for the 50th time. That was the mother of all lies, the most egregious of his broken promises. No Australian can trust another word that comes out of this bloke's mouth. He is a chronic liar. Yep. And of course, Labor's aspiration-killing budget was revealing in another way too. This Prime Minister does not want to empower people. He wants power over people. The Prime Minister has often said he wants Labor to be the natural party of government. That statement is as entitled as it is illiberal. For Anthony Albanese, political life has always been about entrenching Labor rule. His main interest is to consolidate and centralise power. The national interest is a distant second. Now, friends, battle lines have been drawn with this budget. It's clear that the Coalition and Labor stand for completely different things and have completely different visions for our country. So let me set out those distinctions, what we're for and what Labor is for. We're for smaller, better government that gets off Australians' backs. Labor is for bigger government that reaches further into Australians' lives. We're for government that serves the will of the people, that politics is a means to an end. Labor is for people serving the will of the government, that politics is an end in itself. We're for an economy driven by enterprising small and family businesses and a thriving private sector, all self-directed. Labor is for an economy directed by government, government-run entities, big unions and large bureaucratic controllable corporations. We're for individual choice, empowerment, reward for hard work and wealth creation. Labor is for conformity, dependence, equalisation of outcomes and wealth redistribution. We're for Australians owning their own home, especially a freestanding house with the space to raise a family. Labor is for government that owns a stake in Australians' homes or Australians remaining renting forever. We're for parents having choice in childcare. Labor is for a one-size-fits-all childcare system. And we're for unity being our strength, a unity built on respect for individuals, love of family, and a commitment to our great nation. Labor divides Australians based on race, religion, and gender for political gain. We're for putting the national interest first. Labor is for prioritising internationalist agendas ahead of the national interest. We're for an economy that rewards effort and helps Australians to get ahead. And that's why we will axe Labor's toxic taxes. We're for Australians having affordable, abundant, reliable energy. And that's why we will scrap Labor's net zero. We're for restoring the dream of home ownership, especially for young Australians. And that's why we will end Labor's mass migration. And we will always put Australians first. Now, friends, if it talks like a socialist, spends like one, taxes like one, it's a socialist. And that's what this Prime Minister is, and that's where he is taking our country. We must fight and defeat Labor's socialist vision if we're going to restore our standard of living and protect our way of life. Now, this is our opportunity to get Australians behind our vision for a fairer, freer and better Australia. And I began to outline that vision in my budget reply 2 weeks ago. Today, I want to reinforce the fronts where we will fight Labor. Now, friends, if Anthony Albanese wants to force toxic taxes on Australians, he should have the guts to take them to an election. But he won't, because he is a liar and a coward. These taxes are so toxic that not even Labor premiers support them. First, there's Labor's changes to negative gearing. Labor's budget papers show that its changes will reduce the supply of houses by 35,000. Now, these changes aren't a level up for young Australians wanting to own a home. They're a home ownership lockout. This is a tax on housing, pure and simple. And when government whacks a tax on something, you get less of it. There will be fewer houses available for young Australians to buy or to rent. Then there's Labor's scrapping of the 50% capital gains tax discount. This is a tax increase, pure and simple. A tax on savings, on taking risks, on having a go. A tax on Australians, especially young Australians, who have invested in shares, in crypto, in ETFs and other assets, often to build enough for a home deposit. Labor plans to tax these investments more heavily and to steal from people's savings. Now, Labor's CGT changes will shut down growth-enabling investment, and they will obliterate opportunity. These taxes will kneecap so many small businesses, startups and farmers across this great nation. Australians are expressing their frustration, often in satirical ways. And Albanese is incensed by the torrent of memes depicting him as a business co-owner and co-founder who never puts his shoulder to the wheel. To this thin-skinned Prime Minister, it's all misinformation. But he has no understanding of the pain his taxes will inflict because he has never worked a day in a small business. There's also Labor's new taxes on trusts. Trusts are used by hard-working families and small businesses throughout Australia. Those families and small businesses will pay a big new 30% minimum tax, forcing billions of dollars of restructuring costs, stamp duty, and just another impost for exhausted small business owners to deal with across our country. They're even taxing discretionary testamentary trusts. This is a wicked death tax, pure and simple. Now, friends, Labor's toxic taxes are an assault on aspiration and an attack on every Australian. And the justifiable public backlash to this budget is of a magnitude unlike any I've seen. Already, the Prime Minister is talking about carve-outs. But carve-outs aren't enough. Labor's toxic taxes need an axe. And of course, there's no more harmful tax than Labor's inflation tax. Labor has lost control of its spending. And that's why Australia will soon see $1 trillion in debt. That's why inflation is stubborn. The higher Labor's inflation goes, and the longer it lasts, the more the government takes from Australians. And that suits Labor just fine, because the Albanese government needs to fund its spending addiction. And when Labor runs out of money, it comes after yours. Now, Labor is only too happy to see inflation push more Australians into higher tax brackets so we can take more of their income in tax. Bracket creep is their best friend. But we're going to stop Labor's dishonest inflation tax. And as I announced in my budget reply, the Coalition will index tax thresholds to inflation. Our policy will protect Australians' incomes from inflation and put a permanent restraint on the growth of government. Never again will a government be able to steal from Australians year after year via stealth. So let me give you two examples of how this will work. Let's assume inflation is at the Reserve Bank's target of 2.5%, a dream right now, to be frank, but let's assume it for a second. And wages are growing at 3%. Heather's a hairdresser, earning $70,000 a year. Under Labor, her real wage gains will be completely taxed away. But under our tax-back guarantee, Heather will get a tax cut of around $250 in year one, rising to about $1,000 a year in year 4, and rising beyond that. Paul is a plumber, earning $140,000 a year. Under Labor, his real wages will be completely taxed away too. But under our tax-back guarantee, Paul will get a tax cut of about $250 in year 1, rising to around $1,200 in year 4. Now, Jim Chalmers has given the game away. When the Treasurer says indexation will cost a quarter of $1 trillion over the decade, that's the figure he wants to steal from Australians through bracket creep. The Treasurer is planning to take $250 billion extra in income tax from Australians, not on our watch. Our policy is real generational tax reform. And our policy will preserve the aspiration and reward for hard work that makes our nation tick. Now, friends, we're also going to scrap Labor's net zero. We're rejecting Labor's ideological energy policy and restoring pragmatic energy policy. Australia isn't undergoing a rapid, pain-free energy transition as Labor pretends. No nation is. We've seen the shutdown of always-on power like coal and gas, and the unbalanced scale-up of expensive, weather-dependent industrial-scale renewables and transmission lines. The consequences have been dire. Skyrocketing electricity prices for families, businesses and industry. Businesses moving offshore to where electricity is cheaper. A hollowing out of critical sovereign industries and a flight of capital. a desecration of our most magnificent agricultural land. Labor's prioritisation of net zero and emissions reduction, above all else, is destroying our economy and making our nation energy scarce. And the fuel crisis in recent months reinforces how dependent we are on other countries for critical supplies like for jet fuel, diesel and fertiliser. Australia must change direction. And under a coalition government I lead, we will scrap Labor's great big carbon tax, the so-called safeguard mechanism. Indeed, we will scrap Labor's crippling carbon taxes wherever we find them. On mining, on manufacturing, electricity, vehicles and imports. Carbon taxes make Australian industry less competitive and push costs onto households and businesses, and that's why they must go. As will Labor's climate bureaucracy. Labor's net zero agency, gone. Labor's power lines to nowhere, gone. Labor's tax on the family car and utes, gone. We're also going to end Labor's regime of corporate welfare. The Future Made in Australia agenda with its National Reconstruction Fund has been wasteful and ineffective. Handouts, bailouts and carve-outs are being used to prop up green energy rent seekers and to indulge in pie-in-the-sky schemes like green hydrogen. We will save taxpayers billions. And most importantly, under a coalition government I lead, we will pursue a policy of energy abundance. More energy means cheaper energy and a lower cost of living. And cheaper energy means we can innovate, make and build things of ambition once again. Cheaper energy means we can reindustrialise in key areas. We will back any technology that can deliver affordable, reliable energy. Coal, gas, oil, hydro, nuclear, batteries, renewables in the right places, including rooftop solar, of course. And we will scrap the moratorium on nuclear power. Now, Labor's claim that Australia can be a renewable energy superpower is a utopian fantasy divorced from reality. But Australia certainly can be an energy superpower if we dig and drill, if we attract investment to build new power stations and new refineries, if we embrace any technology, old and new, as long as that technology can deliver abundant and affordable energy for Australians. I believe it's our moral duty to deliver cheap and reliable energy for Australians, especially for those that can least afford it. That's what we need to restore our standard of living. And it's time to take the energy fight to Labor with conviction and moral clarity. Now, friends, Cooma in New South Wales is often called the gateway to the Snowy Mountains. After the Second World War, as Australia grew fast, Cooma became a great immigrant town. Many migrants who worked on the construction of the Snowy Mountain scheme came through Cooma and made it their home. People from places which had been at war with each other only a few years earlier. My grandfather, William Hudson, was one of those people. He was the commissioner of the Snowy Mountain scheme, the chief engineer of that pivotal nation-building project. And he was incredibly proud of the migration program he was part of. I grew up near Cooma, and I remember well that migrant influence. The stoic and driven people with an entrepreneurial spirit. The clubs, associations, businesses, cafes and restaurants they started and ran. These new Australians made a commitment to embrace the Australian way of life that was met with widespread admiration. And in Cooma I came to appreciate two rules for successful immigration. First, a country must only bring in people who will share our values, our country's values. And a country must only bring in numbers of people it can cope with. Break these rules, and citizens will lose all confidence in a migration program and the government running it. The Labor Party has broken both of these rules. Since Labor was elected, it has brought in a record 1.4 million people, about the population of Adelaide, in just 3.5 years. That number accounted for 80% of our population growth over the same period. If these numbers don't constitute mass migration, then I don't know what does. And with Labor having brought in too many people too quickly, it also brought in some people with the wrong values. Under Labor, the numbers are too high, the standards are too low, and both must change. We must shut the door to those who want to import the hatred and violence of another place to our country. People who don't want to join and embrace Australia. People who want to change Australia to suit them. But the vast majority of migrants who have come to Australia have worked hard, raised families, built businesses, supported the growth of our nation and become loyal citizens. My criticism is directed at a Labor Party that's lost control of our migration system. And one of the worst consequences of this is failure of our housing market, where supply simply hasn't kept up, exacerbated by falling housing construction under Labor. Many young Australians are giving up on ever owning a home. My resolve is clear. We must restore the dream of home ownership for all Australians, whatever their background. We will cap immigration numbers based on the number of homes constructed each year. We will also increase the supply of housing through targeted investment in infrastructure that will release new homes. And we will slash the 2,000 pages of the National Construction Code that is demanding woke palaces. That has added up to $70,000 to the cost of building a home in this country. Never again will a government be able to bring in more people than our housing can support. Now, friends, when I travel around the country, Australians from all walks of life tell me that they feel like second-class citizens under Labor. Under a coalition government I lead, Australians will never feel like that again. I will always put Australians first. Axing Labor's toxic taxes is about Australians keeping more of their money. Scrapping net zero is about getting power prices down for Australians. Capping immigration numbers based on available housing is about getting more Australians into home. And putting Australian values at the centre of immigration policy is about bringing in people who strengthen our unity, not people who create division. And restricting welfare programs to Australians is about ensuring that taxes paid in this country support citizens of this country. And as I said in my budget in reply, we will reserve access to housing programs, the NDIS, and 17 different welfare programs for Australian citizens. This policy will be grandfathered. Non-citizens who are existing recipients of these benefits won't be impacted. And since we announced this policy, the overwhelming reaction has been one of surprise. So many Australians had no idea that Labor was using their taxes to fund welfare and even home deposits for non-citizens. Surprise has also turned to anger, because while supporting non-citizens, Labor has cut the private health insurance rebate for Australians over 65 and taken funding away from veterans. Labor's budget clearly puts Australians second. The Coalition will always put Australians first. Our welfare policy changes are based on an important principle. If you commit to Australia, then Australia will commit to you. The day after my budget and reply, Anthony Albanese made it clear that he doesn't draw a distinction between citizens and non-citizens. Another example of this Prime Minister's lack of moral clarity. Citizenship is a privilege. It must come with benefits that are reserved for citizens, and that's what the Coalition is committed to. Now, friends, we must do whatever we can to defeat the worst Labor government in our nation's history. Labor has started a war on aspiration, a war on the very essence of being Australian, a war on the soul of our nation. We must fight and win this war. And across the country, younger Australians are seeing the ladder of opportunity being ripped away by Labor. Across the country, Australians running small and family businesses are seething at the Albanese government's toxic taxes and debilitating red tape. And across the country, so many Australians feel like second-class citizens under Labor. Now, many of those Australians who have never been political are speaking up for the first time. We will never have a better opportunity than this to rally people to our cause, to encourage Australians to join us in the fight by supporting and joining the Liberal Party. Because ours is the only party capable of defeating and replacing this rotten Labor government. Friends, the time is now. Our job, every day, is to reach out to our fellow Australians. Tell them about our vision for a fairer, freer and better Australia. Tell them that we need them to help save Australia. This fight won't be won from the sidelines. It'll be won by Australians who are prepared to stand up and sign up. And I say to those Australians, join us, fight with us, because Australia is worth fighting for now more than ever. Thank you so much.